Hey there, I'm Tara Whitney. I'm a body confidence coach and a certified intuitive eating counselor. Let's talk about perfectionism. I want to share with you why I never thought I was a perfectionist, but I'm going to give you some concrete examples of how I have been a perfectionist for most of my life. I have a definition of perfectionism that I want to share with you that may bring some own clarity for you, some clarity for you, and may even allow you to see maybe how you've been a perfectionist at times. And then I want to share with you a path forward. So if this is something that's been a large part of your life, then going forward, you'll have a good sense of how you can unwind some of this. So perfectionism is obviously not a new term. It's something that we all hear about and have heard about. It often gets sort of this bad rap, like, oh, you're a perfectionist. You're that type A, high strung, can never relax type of person. And for me, I considered myself somebody who worked hard, for somebody who was driven. But the idea of being perfect was something that I just knew I could never achieve. I was working toward something, to be something that I thought I needed to be. I thought I needed to live up to certain standards based on whatever role I was playing. But because I never got there, this idea of being a perfectionist was like, yeah, but I'm never perfect. I never arrive at this perfect place. And I think that's really one of the biggest reasons why perfectionism never really resonated for me, because I had this internalized set of standards that I thought were just required, and I never met them. And so that was, as I reflect back now on me being perfect or not being perfect or striving for perfectionism, that sort of leaves me feeling a little sad. And also a good clue that there was a lot of perfectionism that I was striving for in most of my life. So let me share a little bit around what that looked like specifically. When I started practicing yoga, I fell in love with it fast. And I looked around at my teachers, at other experienced yogis, and it was like I was data mining for information around what could make me like a good yogi or an ideal yogi. And it was like little things like how they dressed, how they talked, how calm they seemed, how they were using reusable bags, or where they were shopping, or what kind of foods were they eating, what kinds of cleanses were they doing. It was pretty clear, like, that I had a good idea of what some yogis did and what some yogis didn't do. They were drinking tea and they weren't drinking Diet Coke. They were shopping at Whole Foods and using their reusable bags. Like, there was just this whole package that sort of came along with being a yogi. And so, not surprisingly, that was something that I sort of contorted myself to try to show up as. Like, how do I be a good yogi? And sure enough, that was during a period of time where I started practicing Ayurveda, understanding Ayurveda, becoming, trying the Ayurvedic diet, That's when I was doing all of my juice cleanses and smoothie cleanses. And I was very much like keeping up with the paces. And I see now that that was a way for me to try to be a perfect yogi, like that even exists. But yes, ultimately, I think that's what I was doing. My relationship with food and dieting, my pursuit of weight loss was obviously a way for me to try to be perfect. There's no clearly this idea of dieting where you follow a certain set of rules, like take Weight Watchers, for example. You are staying within a set of ideal points based on what a machine essentially or a formula had given me. And there was a way for me to be perfect based on how Weight Watchers told me to be perfect. And so when I was following or trying to follow programs like Weight Watchers, that was a way in which I was essentially trying to be perfect. That's what diets do. They try to demand perfection, which is often why people can feel like they're either on a diet and being perfect or being off a diet and being off the wagon and failing. I think when my kids were young and I was working in corporate accounting and I was juggling household, mothering, like intense mothering, and working and commuting into whether our office was in Boston at one point or Cambridge at another point, or in like what was interesting about that time for me is that I had this idea of what I needed to do to be a good mom, to be a good wife, to be a good sort of steward of our house, to be a good director of finance, to be a good friend, all of those things. And even though I had all of these different roles and the intensity of those roles kept increasing, I never, ever adjusted the standard I had set for myself based on the bigger picture of what my life was like. There was never this sense that, oh, wait, hold on, Tara, like cut yourself a little slack here. You got this and you got this and you got this. Like maybe, it was always this conversation around in my head. I thought, wow, it would be really nice if there were like two versions of me or even three versions of me. Maybe I could get more sleep then. And so what was really happening was that I had this idea of who I think I should be without any broader context of considering of the rest of my life, actually, just who I was in life. And that's how I see how I was striving to be perfect, because it was that very black or white way of looking at my performance and who I needed to be. So this is what I see perfectionism as. It's a way in which we strive to meet the expectations of someone or something else. And it really becomes something where it's what we think we should be doing. It's what we think we should be doing. And if you think about all of the ways in which we have roles defined for us, look at like June Cleaver from Leave It to Beaver, or, the mom from Happy Days, or maybe you could look at some more less 1970 and 80 shows, but more modern day ways for us to like look at role, like mothers, working mothers, yogis, anything, a college student, any of the roles that you're currently taking on. And we've been clearly told how we should be. And it comes in how we look, how our body looks. It comes in just maybe even things like how we act when we're there. Like, oh, look, you're not a frenetic mom. You're a calm mom. You're not mom that gets angry. You're not a mom that gets upset. Like, wow, what a good mom. Or, you know, if you are someone who, you know, when you're juggling all of those different things, this idea that you're out of control, maybe you're thinking, I shouldn't be out of control. And that's another way in which we internalize these perfectionist ideas for ourselves. So the way I see perfectionism is it's actually, so it's not an internal flaw. It's not a result of poor self-esteem. It's a tactic. It's a strategic tactic that we have learned from a system in which we've been told how we should be. So let me break that down a little bit. So when we take on an expectation and we internalize it, like I have, like I shared with you, this is who I should be. And then instead of questioning that, I just believe it to be true. And then I strive for that. What I've really done is I've created this mechanism that has tried to ensure my success. And my success looks like, will this person, whoever it is, my boss, my husband, the broader world, anybody who might be observing me in this role, will they think more highly of me? Will they see me in a better light? Will they see me as worthy? Will they see me as lovable? Will they see me as capable? And that's really what we're doing. It's like we've tried to create leverage for how we get to feel better about ourselves by influencing how other people may feel about us. Now, I don't want you to have the impression that I'm assuming, nor am I assuming for myself, that somehow we're being manipulative or intentionally trying to, you know, sort of make the world around us just fall in love with us. On one hand, that's sort of what we're doing, but our intention isn't to manipulate. Our intention is to feel worthy. That's our intention. And that's why perfectionism is a strategic tactic that ultimately makes us not only feel worthy, it makes us feel safe. Because when we feel that sense of worthiness, we feel a sense of belonging, we feel accepted, and therefore our external environment, our relationships, the workplace, our romantic relationships, our family relationships, all of that feel more assured. There's more security in those relationships. So that's how I see perfectionism. And so it's not surprising to me that I had such a hard time recognizing this for myself, because what I was essentially trying to do was I was trying to keep myself safe. This was a safety mechanism. That's what perfectionism has been, a safety mechanism. And so the way safety mechanisms work, just by definition, is it's a way to keep us safe. So this has been something that I'm not surprised I sort of didn't have the capacity to see, because there was a part of me that needed that mechanism or I thought I needed that mechanism. I don't know. Obviously, now I see that that's completely untrue. But at the time when I put it in place, I probably needed to be pursuing this form of perfectionism to feel more secure about myself. Yes. So understanding that it's a tactic for safety, I hope, can maybe give you a new perspective on your own pursuit around perfectionism, in the sense that you can now start to look at. So let me give you a couple of things to look at this for yourself. So for example, like me, do you feel like there are some areas in your life where you just feel like you're failing? Like, oh, I can never live up to that. I can never get it right. Hopefully you're not feeling that, but just in case you are, that's something to consider, that you've got this perfectionist strategy in place. Do you say the word should a lot? I should be doing this. I should look like this. This isn't the way it should be happening. I should be this. And so should is like a really good word to look for, that may be just a good indicator for you. Consider that if you're working tirelessly into some direction in your life, and you only see one option. So a lot of your patterns are consistent, like you keep trying the same thing over and over and over again. I think dieting is probably the best example of this. For people who quote unquote are chronic dieters, which means they go from one diet to another. If you could think about that, what that's really doing is it's seeing, I only have one choice, which is I need a set of rules to tell me how to eat and tell me how to lose weight. In this system, the diet system, is also a strategy, a tactic to ensure safety, because what it does is it defines external success. And so the way it works is we think, oh, wait a second, if I'm successful on this diet, then I am going to make the world around me a safer place to be, because people are going to be happy with me, and therefore I'll be happy with myself. I'll feel more accepted. I'll feel more secure, and therefore safer. And if you're someone who needs and finds yourself continually moving from diet to diet, then consider that it's just the engagement of this safety mechanism strategy. And then lastly, you're exhausted, because it's always exhausting to try to live up to a set of standards that aren't your own. When I was trying to be, like, here's a good example. When I was in corporate accounting, now this was early in my career, I used to straighten my hair. Now my hair was a lot curlier than it is now. I mean, I couldn't get a brush through it. And so I had this whole ritual of like washing my hair the night before and letting it dry, and then getting one of those flat irons. And I would just like run it through. And it took a while, and my hair was like really dry and fried. And heaven, like if it rained, and I live in New England, so like humidity is just how we do weather here. We rarely get a dry day that helps with curly frizzy hair that tries to be straight. It would be so stressful. It would be so stressful because I thought I would be a better accountant if I had straight hair. Like it's comical to hear it now. It's comical, but I believed it so with so much conviction that I never questioned it. Like, of course I was going to straighten my hair. Of course it meant people would take me more seriously. Of course it meant I was a better professional. Of course it meant I was more professional. So thankfully those days are behind me. So how do you move forward from this? I, just, you can take a deep breath and just take, like, just consider with fresh eyes, like, what has it been like? Have you been trying to meet a standard for yourself that's not yours? And have you been doing it to make yourself feel safe? And that awareness is always the first step. Next, consider what it's costing you. Like for me, oh gosh, that time and energy straightening my hair. Gosh, all of the ways I tried to be a certain type of yogi when I could just be myself. And being able to just see how destructive dieting and food restriction is, and what it would, and the cost that you've paid, the price you've paid, engaging in dieting and restriction and hoping that it would make you feel safer, and never did. That's the thing about the strategy. It's a faux strategy. It's not real. It's an illusion. It offers safety, and it may have created some safety at one point in your life when there was none and you needed that. But there's a good chance you're engaging in old strategy that you don't need anymore, that you have other ways to make yourself and for you to have safety, that you no longer need this strategy anymore. So be compassionate with yourself. Be compassionate with yourself and see if you can just bring in a little more softness and ease in some of the choices you make. And lastly, probably the big thing that started to move the needle for me is I had to create my own internal standards. I had to look at what I value. I had to look at what really matters to me, and be able to say, oh, hold on, I know that might be expected from me, but actually I don't need to really bring that into my life anymore. I get to be someone like this. And by all means, this is just an ongoing process. Unlearning and reconnecting and reestablishing ourselves and our own sense of worthiness. It's just a practice. It continues to evolve. And it's something that, just takes time. So I hope this is helpful. I'd love to hear if any of this resonates. And until next time, take care.